We all wear masks. From a very young age, we learn, consciously or not, that certain behaviors are rewarded while others are frowned upon. Over time, this shapes the way we present ourselves to the world. We begin to hide parts of who we truly are in order to be accepted, to feel safe, or to avoid pain. This process, though natural and often unconscious, leads to the formation of what psychology calls the persona. It's the version of ourselves that we show to others, the carefully constructed identity designed to meet expectations, gain approval, or simply survive in a demanding environment. Carl Jung, one of the most influential figures in psychology, believed that the persona is not inherently negative. It serves a purpose. It helps us function in society, navigate social norms, and fulfill roles. However, the danger lies in identifying too deeply with this mask. When we confuse the persona with our true self, we begin to lose touch with our inner world. We might find ourselves acting in ways that don't feel genuine, saying things just to please others, or feeling exhausted by the constant effort to maintain an image. Over time, this disconnect can lead to anxiety, emptiness, or even identity crises. Think about your daily life. How often do you say yes when you want to say no? How many times have you smiled through discomfort or laughed when you felt like crying? These small moments build up, creating a version of you that the world sees, polished, agreeable, perhaps even successful, but which might feel far from authentic. The pressure to maintain this facade grows stronger when you receive praise or admiration for it. People begin to love the mask and the fear grows. What if they saw the real me? This fear is one of the key reasons many people struggle with vulnerability. To remove the mask means risking rejection, judgment, or misunderstanding. But it also opens the door to deeper connection with others and with yourself. When you start to question your persona, when you gently peel away the layers, you begin to rediscover the parts of yourself that have been buried under expectations. These might include forgotten dreams, repressed emotions, or even traits you were taught to see as wrong or too much. The journey of self-discovery begins with awareness. Pay attention to the roles you play. Are you the peacemaker, the achiever, the caretaker, the perfectionist? Ask yourself, who am I when no one is watching? What do I long for when I'm alone? With my thoughts? The answers may not come immediately, and that's okay. This process takes time, honesty, and compassion. The goal isn't to destroy the mask entirely, it's to stop mistaking it for your identity. In learning to see the mask for what it is, a useful tool rather than your essence, you begin to reclaim the parts of yourself that make you feel whole. You give yourself permission to show up more authentically, to express your truth, and to reconnect with who you really are beneath the surface. And that is where true freedom begins. Much of who we are lies beneath the surface, hidden from our conscious awareness. The unconscious mind is like a vast ocean, holding memories, emotions, fears, and desires that we don't fully understand or even recognize. While we go about our lives thinking we're making rational, deliberate choices, the truth is that many of our actions are shaped by forces operating silently in the background. Psychology has long explored this hidden part of the psyche, suggesting that the unconscious plays a major role in how we perceive the world, relate to others, and respond to challenges. Sigmund Freud introduced the concept of the unconscious as a storehouse of repressed thoughts and unresolved conflicts. Though his theories have evolved over time, the core idea remains powerful. There are parts of ourselves we don't want to face, so we push them out of awareness. These parts don't disappear. Instead, they influence our behavior in subtle, sometimes destructive ways. For instance, a person who was criticized as a child may grow up with an unconscious fear of failure, leading them to sabotage opportunities or avoid taking risks altogether. They might not even realize why they act this way. It just feels safer, more comfortable, even though it limits their growth. Carl Jung expanded on this idea by introducing the concept of the shadow, the unconscious aspect of the personality that contains traits we deny, reject, or ignore. The shadow isn't necessarily bad. It simply holds what we haven't integrated into our conscious identity. You might think of yourself as kind and patient, for example, while your shadow holds your repressed anger, envy, or judgment. These emotions can leak out in moments of stress, when your guard is down, or through projections, when you see in others the very things you can't accept in yourself. Unconscious patterns often repeat until we become aware of them. You might find yourself attracting similar relationships, reacting the same way to certain situations, or feeling stuck in habits that don't serve you. These are clues pointing to deeper material below the surface. Paying attention to your reactions, dreams, and emotional triggers can offer insight into what's hidden. Dreams, in particular, are a direct line to the unconscious, often using symbols and metaphors to express what the conscious mind cannot. The path to understanding the unconscious is not always comfortable. It requires courage to face what's been buried, to admit that we don't always know why we feel the way we do, and to accept the complexity within us. But with this awareness comes power. The more we explore our inner world, the more choice we gain in how we live. We begin to act, not out of habit or fear, but from a place of clarity and intention. Bringing the unconscious into the light doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual process of observation, reflection, and honesty. Yet every step in that direction brings us closer to our true selves. When we understand the forces shaping us from within, we become freer, more grounded, and more capable of living a life that reflects who we really are. The unconscious mind is the part of us we rarely notice, yet it influences nearly everything we do. It holds memories we've forgotten, emotions we've suppressed, beliefs we've absorbed without question, and fears we've never dared to name. While we like to believe we are rational and fully aware of our choices, much of our behavior is driven by thoughts and patterns that operate beneath our awareness. This is not something to fear. It's simply the reality of being human. Our conscious mind is only the tip of the iceberg, and below the surface lies a much larger and more complex structure that quietly shapes our identity, reactions, and relationships. In early life, we experience situations that our young minds are not fully equipped to understand. To cope, we develop mechanisms to protect ourselves. Some of these become unconscious rules we follow into adulthood without ever realizing it. For example, if a child learns that expressing sadness leads to rejection, they may grow up pushing those feelings away entirely, believing without question that showing emotion is unsafe. As adults, they may struggle with connection, intimacy, or emotional regulation without knowing where these difficulties truly come from. The unconscious holds that early lesson, still active, still powerful. We also store unresolved conflicts in the unconscious. When emotions are too painful or confusing, the mind finds ways to bury them. But what's buried doesn't disappear. It resurfaces in disguised forms. Sometimes it comes through anxiety, sudden anger, or unexplained sadness. Sometimes through habits we can't break, decisions that feel impulsive, or even physical symptoms. These are not random. They are signals from the unconscious, trying to communicate something that has not yet been fully seen or understood. Another important aspect of the unconscious is projection. When we are unaware of certain traits or desires within ourselves, we often see them in others. You might strongly dislike someone without any clear reason, only to realize later that they remind you of a part of yourself you haven't accepted. This process is not meant to be negative. It's an invitation to look inward, to ask why we react the way we do. When we become aware of our projections, we gain insight into what still lives in the shadows of our mind. Dreams are one of the most direct windows into the unconscious. They often reflect our inner state through symbolic language, offering clues to what needs attention or healing. A recurring dream, A strange image or an intense emotional experience during sleep may point to something deeper that the conscious mind is not ready to face directly. Paying attention to dreams and exploring their meaning can be a powerful way to understand ourselves on a more profound level. The process of becoming aware of the unconscious is not about control, but about relationship. When we acknowledge what's been hidden, we create space for healing and growth. It allows us to live with more intention, compassion, and authenticity. The more we understand the unseen parts of ourselves, the more whole we become. We are shaped not only by what happens to us, but by the meanings we attach to those experiences. From early childhood, we begin forming beliefs about ourselves, others, and the world. These beliefs are often based on what we observe, what we are told, and how we are treated. Over time, they become internal rules that guide our behavior and influence how we interpret everything around us. Some of these beliefs empower us, but many become limiting. They quietly dictate what we think we deserve, what we think is possible, and what we believe we are capable of achieving. These are known as limiting beliefs, and they often live just beneath our awareness. A child who grows up feeling unheard might develop the belief that their voice doesn't matter. As an adult, this person might struggle to speak up, avoid conflict, or stay silent even when they have something important to say. Another person who was constantly criticized may grow up believing they are never good enough, leading to perfectionism, self-doubt, or chronic anxiety. These beliefs often repeat themselves in patterns that feel frustrating and unexplainable. We find ourselves in the same kinds of relationships, facing the same internal battles, making the same decisions over and over. It's not because we want to, but because we are following a mental script we don't even realize we're reading from. The mind tends to seek consistency. Once a belief is in place, we unconsciously look for evidence to support it and ignore evidence that contradicts it. This confirmation bias reinforces the belief, making it feel more like a truth than a perception. That's why limiting beliefs are so powerful. They operate in the background, shaping our reality in a way that keeps them alive. Even when something good happens, we may find a way to sabotage it or minimize it because it doesn't match the belief we hold about ourselves. Change becomes difficult, not because we are incapable, but because our mind is protecting the belief system it has grown used to. To break free from these patterns, the first step is awareness. We have to start questioning the inner narratives we've accepted as facts. What do I believe about myself? Where did that belief come from? Is it still serving me, or is it holding me back? These questions open the door to deeper understanding and self-compassion. When we identify a limiting belief, we can begin to challenge it by gathering new evidence, reframing our perspective, and gently introducing new ways of thinking. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a process of rewiring how we relate to ourselves and the world. Transformation comes not from fighting the belief directly, but from building a stronger, kinder truth. Every time we choose to act in a way that reflects who we want to become, rather than who we once thought we were, we loosen the grip of those old mental patterns. Slowly, we begin to step out of the past and into a more expansive, empowered version of ourselves. One not bound by limitation, but guided by possibility. There is a voice inside each of us that speaks in moments of silence, offering guidance, warnings, or quiet encouragement. Sometimes it feels like a deep knowing, other times like a whisper of doubt. This inner voice is often called intuition, but it is not always easy to tell whether it is truly intuitive wisdom or something else entirely, like fear, past wounds, or internalized criticism. One of the most important parts of self-discovery is learning to distinguish between your true inner guidance and the voices of self-sabotage. It is a subtle but powerful difference, and it can determine the direction of your choices and the quality of your life. Intuition is often calm, quiet, and steady. It doesn't shout or demand, but instead nudges gently, offering a sense of clarity that doesn't always come with a logical explanation. You might feel drawn towards something, without knowing why or sense that something is off even if you can't explain it. This kind of knowing usually isn't driven by fear or urgency. It comes from a deeper place, the part of you that sees the bigger picture, that remembers who you are beneath your roles and defenses. But because the mind is busy and the world is loud, this voice is often drowned out by the noise of our thoughts. The saboteur voice, on the other hand, tends to be louder and more insistent. It is shaped by your past experiences, by the criticisms you've internalized, and by the fears you've picked up over time. It says things like, "You're not good enough," "It's too risky," "You'll fail," or "No one will care." It uses doubt and perfectionism to keep you from moving forward. Its goal is not to destroy you, but to protect you. Though in doing so, it often keeps you small. This voice is connected to the ego and the superego, the parts of your psyche that are concerned with image, rules, and survival in a social world. It wants safety and predictability, even at the cost of growth or authenticity. Learning to tell the difference between intuition and self-sabotage takes practice. It requires you to slow down and really listen. How does the message feel in your body? Intuition tends to bring a sense of peace, even when the message is challenging. The saboteur brings tension, stress, or a racing mind. Is the message based in love or fear? Does it encourage expansion or restriction? By asking yourself these questions, you begin to build a relationship with your inner voice, one rooted in trust and discernment. You won't always get it right. Sometimes you'll mistake fear for wisdom or ignore a gut feeling you wish you hadn't. That's part of the process. The more you pay attention, reflect, and stay curious, the clearer your inner world becomes. With time, you begin to act less out of reaction and more out of alignment. Your decisions reflect not just who you've been, but who you are becoming. And in that space, guided by something real within you, self-trust begins to grow. True. Transformation begins when you stop searching outside yourself for validation and start reconnecting with your inner truth. After peeling back the layers of masks, facing the unconscious, challenging limiting beliefs, and learning to listen to your intuition, what remains is the raw, unfiltered version of who you really are. This is not a perfect or polished self, but an honest one. The self that holds contradictions, desires, strengths, wounds, dreams, and fears all at once. Reconnecting with this self means embracing your humanity, your depth, and your capacity to grow beyond the version of you shaped by fear, expectation, and habit. At this stage, you begin to live with more intention. You no longer act from automatic patterns, but from awareness. You notice when old voices try to pull you back into doubt or self-protection, but you no longer believe them blindly. Instead of reacting, you pause, reflect, and choose. That pause becomes a sacred space where freedom lives. This is the moment you begin to rewrite the story of who you are. Not based on what others told you, not based on old pain, but based on what you know to be real within you. It is an act of reclaiming your life. Living in alignment with your true self does not mean you will never struggle again. It means you face struggle with clarity and self-compassion. You recognize your needs without shame. You set boundaries without guilt. You forgive yourself for the times you abandoned your truth, because now you understand why. You learn to hold space for yourself during uncertainty instead of trying to fix or escape it. The more you do this, the more you trust yourself. And that trust becomes the foundation for deeper relationships, creative expression, and inner peace. When you begin to embody your truth, others may notice a change in you. Some will be drawn to it, inspired by your presence and honesty. Others may feel threatened by it, especially if your new way of being challenges the roles they were used to you playing. But this is part of the process. You cannot stay small for the comfort of others and grow at the same time. Choosing yourself is not selfish. It is an invitation for those around you to do the same. Reconnecting with who you truly are is not a destination, but an ongoing process. Life will continue to challenge you, but each challenge becomes an opportunity to return to yourself with more depth. With every cycle of growth, you peel back another layer, discover another truth, and become more grounded in who you are. This is the essence of personal freedom, not the absence of struggle, but the presence of self. In the end, discovering who you really are is not about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. It's about coming home to yourself, again and again, with honesty, grace, and a quiet strength that no one else can define for you.